Welcome to episode 77 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's episode, I chat with the man known as the godfather of CRM, Paul Greenberg, around the CRM space and what it means for the world of sports.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who has a Twitter account for his shoes, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. That's right, I do have a Twitter account for my shoes at Sports Geek Shoes. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and you're listening to another episode of Sports Geek Podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you very much for the feedback that I have been getting in the last couple of episodes since I did put out a bit of a call to action for people to send me an email and provide feedback on the podcast. You can do that at any point. Sean at sportsgeekhq.com. If you've got any feedback, suggestions, or anything you would like me to discuss or someone you would like me to interview, please let me know. This week, I caught up earlier this week with Paul Greenberg, who thankfully had been introduced to the Seat community, and I met him at Seat in Kansas City in 2013, thanks to Russell Scabetti. And we have a good chat around all things CRM, and then later on in the show, I'll talk about a little bit of the travels that I'll be doing in March. So I hope to catch up with a lot of people while I'm in London, San Francisco, and San Diego. So if you're listening to Sports Geek Podcast for the very first time on whatever platform it is, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Audio Boom, or even on the website, sportsgeekhq.com. Thank you very much for listening. Please subscribe to get all the episodes, and you can always go back, and I really do recommend connecting with all the guests. I'm at guests. I've had 99 guests on the show. Paul would have been 100, but I've already had him on the show. So the next person who is on the podcast will be guest 100, but I highly suggest you connect with all the people who have been on the podcast. I really do enjoy talking with them all. They're all smart people and well worth connecting with, both on Twitter and on LinkedIn. So here's my chat with Paul Greenberg from the 56 Group. Very happy to welcome back a former guest of the Sports Geek podcast. Had him on way back on episode 14 from Seat in Kansas City. Paul Greenberg, welcome back to the Sports Geek podcast.
It is awesome to be back, Sean. I'll tell you what, I had such a blast doing that with you in Kansas City. It was just one of the highlights of my conference.
Well, thank you very much. You're too kind. For the people who don't know Paul, he's PGreenBE on Twitter. Writes everything around CRM on sites like ZDNet. And most of you who are in the CRM space, I know Russell Scabetti does not talk highly enough of you, Paul. They would have read the book CRM at the Speed of Light. 4 editions and 9 languages, I read. Is that right? Have you got it in any more languages these days?
No. I actually finally got sick of the book, so I'm not writing another edition.
All right. So I wanted to. Reason I wanted to have a catch up is you've recently released your CRM watch list, and you've had a bunch of submissions from the CRM space. You've been doing it for now 4 years. You want to tell us a little bit about the background of why you've gone and done this and the process to pick the winners on the CRM watch list?
Sure. Actually, it's an 8-year-long award. It just had a different name for a few years, called the Steppin' Out Awards back in the beginning. The whole idea of the CRM watch list starts from the standpoint that, look, we're in a world right now, and we've been in a world for well over a decade where customers kind of control the conversation, they rule the roost, and not only do businesses of any kind, sports or otherwise, have to be cognizant of that fact, but when it comes to the processes and the programs and the systems and the strategies and the technologies, they have to execute using all of those pieces so that their customers are not only inclined to buy from them, but buy from them continually. And in the more current incarnation of customers, talk about them in a positive way out on their networks. And what CRM is always, as such, has always been there for is, at least from the operational side, to handle all that. Now, what's interesting is that if you look at the CRM as an industry, you're talking about an industry that's pretty powerful, and even in the worst macroeconomic conditions that we've had, has only grown. So when I first joined the CRM industry about more than a decade ago, it was probably a $2 or $3 billion industry. Now it's a $24 billion industry. It's expected to be a $37 billion industry roughly by 2017. In that mix have been in that mix of pieces that are necessary to keep those customers fully involved and engaged and interacting with you is a large technology piece. And a lot of companies build the technology components, which tend to be customer facing. So it'd be sales, marketing, customer service. It could be social engagement now, and a few other pieces, which we could discuss, a little later. What I'm doing with the CRM watch list is saying, all right, technology companies, you're putting forward these products and services, these tools that people need to improve their sales, to keep their sales, their marketing, and their customer service, and their outreach to customers. How much of an impact have you made on that marketplace? How much of an impact have you made on those customers? How much of an impact have you made in the industry itself? And starting about 8 years ago, I began looking at them, and I began just awarding the impact players an award called the Stepping Out Award. But I changed it radically 4 years ago because, in the CRM world, I'm pretty well known, and I kind of get to write my own ticket now. And one of the things I was able to do is say, look, if you want to be part of this, and you want me to take a look at you and say, yeah, these are an impact player, then you have to prove it. So I built this questionnaire, and it was a fairly comprehensive one that has 12 questions ranging from your financial status to your marketing strategy, to your products, to your partnering strategy, to your culture, to your vision and mission. All of those things are taken into account. And you have to give me an idea of what all of those are, and then show me that you're actually doing them. Right now, the interesting thing is, for whatever reason, people seem to think this is pretty important. And every year in the last 3 of the 4, especially since I've required a submission of a questionnaire, I've gotten 150 questionnaires or so from companies ranging as large as Microsoft, which is, of course, 100 billion, down to companies that are less than $1 million. And so this year I had, for example, 142 registrations, 153 registrations, and 142 companies submit the questionnaire. And some of the questionnaires were like 66 pages and 90 pages, and they were huge. And I had to read 2,100 pages. And what I do is I sit down and I score this. And then there's algorithms running that I've created in the background. And I'm not a geek, so it's not really geek algorithms. It's just Excel spreadsheet formulations and weights.
Yep.
And the number comes out, and you get a status. You're either elite, a winner, an honorable mention, or nothing. This year, there were 23 elites or winners, another dozen plus honorable mentions, and everyone else didn't make it. It's tough. But you know what it says? It says that the industry, as it evolves and as it matures and as it changes, it's hard. Not only is it harder and harder to make an impact, but you have to be an incredibly well-rounded company to do it. And your customers have to be responding to you in ways that, say, 5-10 years ago, they wouldn't have responded to you. And if you can prove that to me, you win. And if you can prove that to me in spades, you win an elite status. This year, we had a total of only 3 elites. 4, Microsoft, Salesforce, a company called Pros, which does price and sales optimization, and Ernst & Young Advisory on the consulting services side, and that's it.
Yep.
That's killer. But the reality is this. It says, I'm a technology company. I'm a technology services provider. I'm having an impact that's so substantial that it can influence how an industry changes and does its work.
I mean, the fact that you have 153 registrations just shows you how many players are in the space, and how difficult it is from a vendor, from the people getting pitched, in that they're getting pitched. And I see it on the sports side, how many companies, both CRM and non-CRM, are pitching into industries to say ours is the solution. How have you found the watch list, and is there any trends that are coming out from that a lot of these CRM companies are moving towards, that are saying these are the key success factors, or here's the things that customers are looking for in a product per se?
Oh yeah, actually, what's really fascinating, both from a theme, I don't want to call them trends really, because ultimately, I'm dealing with 142 companies who are proactively submitting to me.
Yep.
So it's really more themes of the type of company that's showing up. And what I'm seeing now, what I'm about to tell you is what I'm seeing in the themes within customer on the CRM watch list, but it's also a much bigger trend in the market. And it goes to the heart, if you want to focus in on the sports world, of what's critical in the sports world too. The themes and the trends and the sports focused side, all are built around engagement. Customer engagement on sports world is fan engagement. In the public sector, it's constituent engagement, but it's engagement. And what engagement means is the ongoing interactions between the company and its customers, which are offered by the company and chosen by the customers. That's my definition of customer engagement. Yep. But engagement means it's the ongoing interactions, right? Companies are becoming massively concerned with how to keep their customers engaged fully. Now, with that said, the reason for that is there's a clear statistical uplift when it comes to revenue and customer satisfaction and other metrics if a customer is fully engaged. Gallup did a study on this middle of last year that said if a customer is fully engaged, he provides a 23% premium over a normally engaged customer, a normal customer with a company, meaning in revenue and in customer satisfaction, meaning they're much happier, they're buying more, they're doing all the things. And it's a 23% premium, which is a substantial amount of revenue and a substantial uplift in satisfaction and other things like that. Now, the interesting thing around engagement is it's also becoming, and again, the studies are out there on this all over the place, it's also becoming a major concern for companies. So McKinsey did this big study in January of last year that said, what are the top 10 things that you're thinking about when it comes to customer engagement? I mean, when it comes to your business. And customer engagement was one of the top 10 in 56% of the cases, which made it, I think, the third most of the 10. But then, more significantly, did another study in July, similar, top 3. Customer engagement was the top one of the top 3 because it was in the top 3 in 69% of all the respondents, meaning it was the number one concern of businesses when it came to the things most important to them in their business over the next year plus. Now, if you think about this, it goes even further, right? You go down to the level of fans, right? You go into sports world. We'll take it into our extant universe now. What do you got there? Well, look, we know this. The thing that keeps fans most engaged is winning seasons. We're all aware of that. But we're also aware that, painfully, for me with the New York Giants this year and the New York Knicks, painfully, winning seasons don't happen all the time, especially given the expectations of a fan base. Now, on the one hand, the fan says, you want me to buy a season's ticket, you better show me something for that. If it's not a winning season, show me something else. And my expectations of you, because you are paying millions and millions of dollars to these stars, is that you're going to give me these big things. But on the other side of the same coin, a sports team is by nature and because it's a business, constrained, right? It's constrained. And the constraint is simple. We don't have the revenue to give you your particular expectation, fan, right? We can't guarantee you big things because we don't have the money to do that. We're revenue-wise, we're a mid-market company. The irony of that, to be honest, is the vast majority of my clients are way bigger than any sports team, except maybe the 2 or 3 biggest football teams in Europe and the Yankees. Yeah. And other than that, my clients are all bigger than them. And bigger than most of them too. So you have enterprise expectations coming from a passionate fan base that wants a lot for its money and a company that can't give them all of that. So what do they have to do? They have to figure out kind of mass engagement strategies on the one hand when it comes to creating the ambiance and the environment. So you look at, say, what Kenny Lauer and company are doing with the Golden State Warriors now. Big article came out this week in CNET talking about their plans through 2018 for engaging fans at the stadium and the wireless connectivity. I mean, you know it better than I do, I'm sure.
Kenny actually did talk about it when he was on the podcast around the plans for the stadium, and and it really brings into a good point that I wanted to bring up around that in sports, that engagement is it is a big buzzword to a certain degree at the minute, but also is the same is attendance, which when you're looking through 142 submissions, or you're looking through all the names that you've listed in the watch list, technology is part of the equation. And I really liked the article that Rich Tu from Marriott wrote on your column around connecting the digital and the physical. And I think that's where a lot of the sports teams are trying to focus on, one, helping fix the global attendance problem, people not going to games and not wanting to consume the live experience, and tying that into their fan engagement, scoring system for fans. So you're seeing teams building their loyalty in and making sure the physical turning up at a game and purchasing at a game, those kind of things are rewarded in a higher mechanism, higher than just consuming in a digital sense in a virtual world. Trying to make that connection, and it's something that the guys at Marriott and all the hotel chains do exceptionally well. They're tracking both what you're doing online and how you're interacting with the business, but then they very much want to be tracking what hotels you're going to, where you're going to through casinos and those kind of things, because that means you're actually on the floor, you're engaged with the product fully, and not just in this passive lean back, consuming all the content type of space. How have you seen, I guess, the wider industry like hotels really, which are smashing that area, and then moving into the world of sports?
Well, look, I mean, there's a group of vertical industries, and we'll call sports one of them. Sports, hospitality, transportation, retail, even financial services and healthcare, that I call emotional verticals. Meaning, we're human beings. Every one of us is an individual. Each of us has a different life that we want to lead than the next. We could find our doppelganger, our identical twins, our clones out there, and we're still going to want to lead a different life than they're leading. And the reality is that we invest our beings into things we do, which then give us feedback on the life we want to live, right? So some people are caught up, let's say, the retail space, in owning a very expensive item for the name, even though from the standpoint of the quality of the item, you probably find something 90% cheaper. On the other hand, when it comes to sports, you know what it is. I mean, we all know it's why we love it, right? It's not just a team. It's our childhoods are invested in it. Our civic pride is invested in it. There's so much emotion behind it, it's just staggering. It's why I love it. I got a whole history of my company is the 56 Group, and it's called the 56 Group, even though I'm a one-person company, because in 1956, that was the year I started watching the New York Yankees.
Yep.
That's how invested in it I am. We're all like that. So what you find is that in those industries, there's no one answer to this, and digital isn't the answer. Physical isn't the answer. All of it is the answer, meaning you do things that impact individuals in ways that they feel have a personal, emotional result that makes them just simply feel good. And that's what this boils down to. Business itself is a very simple proposition. If a customer likes you and continues to like you, they'll continue to do business with you. If they don't, they won't. And it's as simple as that. And it's a lot of complexity in how you get there. But the reality is, when you're talking about sports world or hotels, I go to a hotel, I have expectations, right? Some of it is, oh, whoa, this is a really cool contemporary looking hotel. Some of it is, what a great bar. The drinks here are fantastic. Some of it is, restaurant. Oh, wow. Some of it is, whoa, look at that, smiling, great service. If I get all of that and I go to my room and I lay down on my bed and I turn to the right and I bang my head on the wall, and I turn to the left and bang my head on the other wall, all of those other things go away because the functional idea of the room is destroyed. I don't want to be in a room that's dysfunctional. It doesn't even serve my basic need, which is I need to sleep in it without just breaking my head or neck, right? All those other things go. But the totality of the whole thing is what counts. I feel great when I'm here. It's the same when it comes to sports. It's the same when it comes to hotels. It's the same when it comes to flying on an airplane. It's the same when it comes to retail and the way people buy clothes and items. And it's the same way Amazon does its business, which makes it personalized without being personal. So you go to a stadium, of course that's a real problem. You know what? Look at football. I don't know about you, American football. I'd much rather watch it from home than be at a game. Much rather. Why? Camera angles are better. It's warmer. Food's better. I learn a lot more. I can't see much even from the best seats at a football game because it's 100 yards long. Baseball, though, exact opposite. I'd rather be at a game. Why? Because the stadium is part of it. This going to the stadium and going out and seeing these big green fields and knowing the history of this stadium or knowing the history of the team that's associated with the stadium. But I'm 65 years old. I don't know that a 22-year-old thinks the same thing. Problem a sports team has, they got to figure out the difference between a 65-year-old who might buy a season's ticket and a 22-year-old who's not likely to buy one but could, but not likely to buy one, and at the same time satisfy both.
Yeah, and that's that's where the data science of your CRM comes in, and understanding who your fans are and what they want, and that's where you can pitch. Similar to what, speaking to Dan Magala on the previous podcast, around pitching that whole experience. Here's the whole experience when you're going to the baseball. Here's the whole experience when you're going to a football match, which can, winning is everything. It is a great marketing strategy. It's a great way to get people in the door. But you want to make sure that people are ticking off the whole experience. And if there's a win or not a win, yes, they'll be devastated if you don't win, but they want to say, I had a great experience, because I think more and more of these, experience marketing is maybe one way of putting it, but going to live sports is an experience. Again, Dan Magala at a lunch last week, you don't tell your grandkids about a game you watched on TV. But you tell your grandkids, of a game that you're at and the memories and all of that kind of thing.
All you have to do is say, "I was there." That's what you want to say. I was there.
So on the data side and the data science, and we hear big data over the last couple of years. Where do you see CRM providers sort of helping with either dashboards or visualizations around the data to help people using CRM make better decisions?
Well, I mean, we're seeing the biggest growth areas that we're seeing are around the analytics side. Because keep in mind, the data is just data, right?
Yep.
It doesn't mean much. It's the insights you gain from analyzing the data that's got meaning. And what we're seeing as far as the technology side goes around CRM is we're seeing a lot of companies who are beginning to evolve customer engagement analytics. And that area of analytics where they're defining engagement metrics, and that could be on the one hand. On the other hand, you're seeing journey management and analytics built around the back end of that.
Yep.
We're starting to see all of these different capabilities. So you see companies like SAP or SAS or NICE or Verint or all doing engagement analytics at some level. And I can go on and give you a dozen more. On the other hand, you're seeing companies like, again, I guess Verint to some extent, or Exact Target over at Salesforce, or Thunderhead, focused around more the customer journey and capturing it and analyzing the journey so that you can see where it's the best intersection points with customer. But all this data, petabytes, of data is being captured and analyzed and parsed and analyzed and reported, and then insights are gained, and then personalized responses are going out to individual customers or fans or constituents, right? So the data or the analytics are not only sophisticated from the standpoint of their ability to parse all this data, but also the ability to parse it exceptionally quickly and get a response out in near real time. I mean, that's the other side of all of this. So, we're starting to see this come to fruition now, and it's a big deal. I mean, is it perfect by any company? No one's perfect with it yet, but all of them have the capability is actually there. The component exists. The technology is sound. Now it's more nuances and tweaks and building it so that it's a little more scalable, a little faster, to provide with kind of and better at optimization. Things like that are starting to show up all over the CRM universe.
Yeah, I think, and people are asking me every now and again, how do I break into sports, and where's it a growing area? And just from my experience with Seat over the last couple of years with the CRM track, if you've got skills, if you can slice and dice and analyze that data and come back and present opportunities, because that's what that data provides. You can go back to your sponsorship team and say, I've found this segment that are very much aligned with this sponsor or this sponsor vertical. With this information, you can attract that sponsor, or with this information on this demographic that are buying tickets in a certain way, a specific ticket offer put out to this segment of our database can sell tickets, because then you've got instant return on investment. You can run out a campaign that targets families that you've seen that are in your database that are buying one ticket, maybe they'll buy multiple, those kind of things. If you can analyze that data and present it to the teams that are producing revenue for the team, whether it be from a sponsorship point of view or from a ticket sales point of view, they're two major revenue streams for sports teams. That's all sitting in the data in the CRM, and then in the other data that you have access to, whether it be from your web traffic and your Facebook audience. But the people who will be able to, data scientists, if you will, but the analysts in that data space, the ones that are able to interpret and dig into that data and give back that information, in a quick manner, they're the ones that sports teams will go, yeah, we want that guy. And effectively, it's I joke, but it's the money ball on the business side of things for sports, and I think that's definitely the growing area that I'm seeing in the sports world.
Well, you know what? It actually is a growing area everywhere. It's fascinating to see, but the claims of by the technology companies themselves of we have this extraordinary data science are staggering. How many of them make the claim? Do all of them live up to it? No. But people who are being trained in that area can write their own ticket. To be perfectly honest, they can write if they love sports, they could probably write their ticket. If they'd rather have more money, they could write their ticket somewhere else, right? But because it's a huge employment gap, and everyone needs people who can analyze data right now. Everyone. And look, Sean, I mean, you're like a rock star and all this stuff, and you talked across the spectrum, and ultimately, when push comes to shove, you're dealing with how do we run our business and make our response to the people who care about our business more human, so that they continue to interact with our business. And in the case of sports, it's oddly easier and oddly harder. It's easier because you have the passion already there for the team. Yep. It's harder because a sports fan's demands are considerably more voracious than an ordinary customer's, right? And so, but you look at teams like my favorite of all time as far as example goes, and you've heard me talk about them, the Flyers. They figured it out. They actually figured this out. I mean, someday, I'm sure you've had Mark on the show countless times from his, past history, or Sean Tilger. Those guys just should tell you the story. I mean, it's just spectacular. And what they've accomplished, they have the metrics to show. They were looking at early renewals of season ticket holders. I mean, early renewals. That was not just, will you renew? Will you renew early? And they developed an early bird program that was so wildly successful because it engaged fans at the most profound level, that the least likely fan group, the 1-star fan groups, the least likely who have a propensity to do it early, of the total group over a 3-year period, they were the lowest percentage, and it was 84% of them did it early. Yep. And the highest was like 92%, meaning only 16, at worst, only 16% of the season ticket holders who were asked to be early birds, which is all of them, didn't do it. That's amazing. Yeah, the numbers are staggering, and it's proof positive that if you understand your fans, you understand your customers, which you need these data analysts and scientists to do, you will see the financial results you're looking for, and of course, you can buy the players you need to win.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I will follow up with those guys, the Flyers. I haven't had them on, so I'll reach out to you to make an introduction. Sure. I'd love to talk to them about that case study. Before we wrap up, I want to briefly sort of touch on, I'm very thankful that Russell Scabetti invited you along to seat in Kansas City, and you were there last year in Miami. Unfortunately, we couldn't talk because I had lost my voice and I wasn't able to chat to too many people. But I must thank you for the tea and the lozenges that helped me get my voice back. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience as a not so much an outsider, because you're very much in the CRM space, but coming into a sports conference and some of the conversations that happen in that CRM track and how you found it over the last 2 years?
Sure. I mean, by the way, I got to tell you, man, you just rocked at sea. Even without your voice.
Thank you.
I don't know how you did it. You're just you are just I was going to curse, but I won't. A natural.
Thank you very much. The fact that you nearly cursed is one of the highest compliments I can take.
Oh my God, man! You just you were great. I was in awe of the way you handled yourself on the stage with no voice. I was absolutely in awe of it, and you were just brilliant. So, all right, so that's it. The CRM track at SEAT is okay. So Christine, of course, has had me sit on the board of advisors. So I kind of get a little bit of an inside peek in addition to and I've spoken at both.
Yep.
And then I, of course, go to sessions and talk to people, and it's fascinating to me in two regards. One regard is the incredibly deep interest that exists in in CRM by sports teams on the one hand, and no disrespect intended.
Yep.
How far behind they are in thinking about it on the other.
Yeah.
Now that said, there's a certain amount of myth that kind of built up around that. Yes, they're far behind on thinking about it, but on the other hand, there are some genuinely visionary stuff going on that the external other industries can learn too. And I saw that in both the CRM track to some extent and the digital marketing track also, where I saw a lot of it. And the thing we discussed earlier being an ideal example, the stuff that Kenny Lauer talked about is a perfect example of that. Some of the things that I'm seeing now that, say, teams like the Pacers are doing and the Yankees are doing and a few others that are, if not like super visionary, absolutely sound and principled and focused and executed well enough to be case studies. The stuff the Flyers are doing are more visionary and exciting and fascinating. So I saw all the elements of that, of both sides, in the two tracks. I would say that if I'm designing a track this year, I would focus a bit more on the engagement side than last year and the year before, not because it should have been that way, but because the market shift is well underway, and so there needs to be more engagement focused kind of discussions. And I like to see that. I'll say that, and certainly.
That's good to know, because Christine was here last week, and we've been brainstorming around the agenda, and part of it is reaching out to the steering committee members like yourself. So the way I see it works is the attendees, the steering committee really do steer the content. So we will make the engagement conversation a really big focus. I think going back to your initial point around the size of businesses that are really leveraging CRM, back to, don't want to call sports a small business, but it's a smaller business when you're looking at the larger CRM market. It is a matter of resources and having the bodies in the team to be able to skill up these CRM teams and data analysts that we've discussed. And the growth that I've seen in the space since the CRM track was added in Boston, because we're getting a varying group of people that are getting mature in their use of CRM and data and running campaigns and selling tickets, to people that are still putting together their data strategy and what data they have and what campaigns they can tackle. And Fiona Green, who was in Miami, who will be at London, she was talking about really around the process and getting the strategy right. And then once that's there, then you can get the tools in place to start automating that thing. I get the feeling that sports is really on CRM. They are running like crazy to catch up, and they have the advantage of having that really avid fan base and that pool of customers that are there, but they are unique. They're not like a hotel customer. They're not like a hospitality customer or a retail customer. They have that real fan identity. It's part of my identity that I'm a Collingwood fan or a Packers fan, which people don't wear that badge of honour with Hilton or Marriott or those kind of things. So I think that's where, for mine, some of the analysis that's going to come out over the next couple of years on how to unlock that equation and identify new fans, but also keep those fans that you have got, like the Phillies did in, renewing your memberships, renewing your season ticket sales. I think they're more and more of the case studies that we'll start hearing about at SEAT, especially in San Francisco, but over the next couple of years.
Well, from my standpoint, look, I when I first got involved with SEAT, it was because Russell had asked me if I wouldn't mind speaking at SEAT, because he thought I would help draw some people, and I was very honored, and I came and I was blown away, honestly. And this is, Kansas City originally, and then, of course, Miami last year. I continued, and I think the conference itself, the job that Christine does, is just mind-blowing. And I deal with lots of conferences. I mean, that's what I speak at lots of other, not sports ones, but other conferences, monstrously large ones. Christine is, the work she does is kind of brilliant, really. And I think the conference itself is exceptionally valuable, important, and exciting when it comes to the content that it provides and the people who are there. And, being not in the sports world for a living gives me kind of I get a thrill just kind of hanging out, just because I do. I mean, there's no question I'm a sports kind of, I don't want to call myself a groupie, but, let's say a pretty profound fan. That said, I have a lot of reach into the CRM world, and I've made a mission. I have a mission now to get the CRM world, including the technology companies, to understand the sports world for how it really is, and to build the appropriate, let's call it, pricing and technologies and packages and expertise and so on, so that the sports teams can actually handle the costs on the one hand, and on the other hand, just engage with the rest of the world and vice versa. Look, to be perfectly honest, sports teams think less of themselves than they should. They know that they have fans who commit to the teams, but what they don't know, I think, or they don't seem to know, is how far people in the CRM world and the other worlds and these big enterprises are willing to go to be part of them, right? They just want to hang around. They're willing to do an awful lot just to hang around. And with the business guys, it's the aura of the whole thing, right? It's huge. And they perfectly honestly don't take advantage of what's there. I'm on a mission, and it is a mission for me to convince the CRM world and the sport and the technology world in general, and the influencers and the analysts and the heavy hitters and the strategists, that they need to help the sports world do what it does, right? And do it in a way that the sports world can handle the cost. And sometimes that cost has to be nothing. And sometimes that cost has to be less. And build a pack. We're seeing some of that, companies like Microsoft and SAP and others kind of get it. And they're on the technology side building accordingly and starting to price accordingly. If things go as planned, I'll hopefully have a group of really heavy hitting kind of major influencers and very experienced thinkers and strategists come to seat this year in San Francisco, because luckily a lot of them happen to be located there, with Christine and your blessing. We'll do that and start the interaction in a way that, helps the sports world do what it does so well, do what it does well already, even better.
Well, that's got to be terrific news for everyone who's listening, to have you on a mission, and Paul Greenberg on a mission is a feared man. So the fact that you're out there championing the sports CRM space, that's exactly why Russell wanted to get you involved with SEAT. Really looking forward to catching up with you again in San Francisco, and thank you very much for taking the time to be on the podcast.
Sean, it was always awesome, and I owe you a great either Irish or single malt when we get to San Francisco, and I know I go there 15 times a year, so I know where I'm taking you.
Okay, I look forward to it.
You got it, my friend.
Sign up for the Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/SGN.
Thanks again to Paul Greenberg there from the 56 Group. And as I said throughout the conversation there, we'll have links in the show notes to a couple of the articles that we did discuss there. You can follow Paul's work via Twitter. Paul's Twitter handle is PGreenBE. And you can follow Paul. He's always up for a discussion about all things CRM. Let him know that you listen to the podcast, and hopefully you'll be able to attend SEAT in San Francisco, where he is going to bring some of those heavy hitters for a really terrific panel for the CRM group. And I'm sure there might be more than a few from the digital group sneaking into that. I'm actually lucky enough to have the first steering committee call this morning with the digital guys, and we did talk a lot about some of the topics that we will be discussing at SEAT, and one of them was doing a little bit more crossover stuff with the CRM guys, because CRM and digital go hand in hand, and part of SEAT is all about the collaboration. So if you have not got your ticket for SEAT yet, please do so. As you know from listening to episode 76, Christine's out there recruiting people both for the panels and also to attend, and we expect a really great turnout in San Francisco. And as we also discussed, if you're in Australia and New Zealand, I was lucky enough to catch up with Westpac Stadium CEO and former guest and good mate of mine, Shane Harmon, during the week to while he was in town to watch the Asian Cup on TV over a few beers. We're really looking forward to taking some Australian and some New Zealand teams over to SEAT and present that international point of view and what Australian and New Zealand teams do really well. If you've listened to the episode with Shane Harmon, he does describe that many technology companies look to New Zealand as a beta platform to be able to see what can happen, and the same happens in sports. So if you're looking for trends, New Zealand is a great place to analyse and keep an eye on what's happening. Simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/SEAT 2015 special to claim the special rate for Australian and New Zealand teams attending SEAT. It's only really affordable. Just hop on a flight. It will be a terrific lineup from a panel point of view, and the tours of things like Levi Stadium and AT&T Park will be well worth the price of the ticket and the flight across. For those of you who are in London, March 17, SEAT London's going to be happening at Lord's. The tickets there are almost sold out, but I have been talking to Dan McLaren from the Digital Sport UK about potentially setting up a meetup of some kind, whether it is the 18th or the 19th. We're just working on the dates. Please send us a tweet at Sean Callanan or Dan McLaren. Let us know you're interested. The more that are interested, the better the group and the meetup will be. So please, let us know. And then the last one is after SEAT London, I'm going to be heading over to the West Coast to go to Social Media Marketing World. I went to Social Media Marketing World back when they first ran it in San Diego in 2013, run by Mike Stelzner from Social Media Examiner. I really enjoyed the conference. Very collaborative, very great networking events, very similar to SEAT in the way that people are really open in sharing their case studies around what they're doing in social media, different platforms, what's working for them. So I'm looking forward to catching up with guys that you might be following online, like John Loomer, Jay Bear, Pat Flynn, Murray Smith, Guy Kawasaki, those kind of guys. Really looking forward to it. If you want to come along, I've already got a few of my friends going along to do a bit of learning and learn a little bit more about social media and how brands are using it, because I think there's a real lot of lessons in that space, how brands are using it and then how it can be adopted in sports. So it's a bit of a professional development for myself. You can grab a ticket to that, sportsgeekhq.com/SMMW15, and that'll take you to the page. And they do a really good ticketing strategy where if you check it out today, the price will actually go up in a couple of days' time. So they really work on that time pressure around that. So that's about it for this week's episode. Just one quick shout out, a big congratulations. I'm recording this on Friday. 2 days, 2 more games left in the Asian Cup. You would have heard Michael Brown talk about the plans for the Asian Cup prior to Christmas when I caught up with him. It has gone over. It's been a completely successful tournament. Best of luck to the Socceroos that are in the final against South Korea. But overall, as from an event point of view and the way it's been run and done, it's been a very, very successful event. So congrats to Michael, Matt and Luke, the guys who we were working with to help sell all the tickets via digital and Facebook advertising. And to everyone in the local organising committee, I know how hard you've worked over the last 4 years. It's been a very successful tournament. And then the last shout out for people in Melbourne, please join Sports Business Melbourne on a meetup. I'm already in the process of planning some more events, got a few people who are coming out from the US, and I'll organise events around them. And also been talking to Russell Scabetti about organising an event in April to coincide with SB Week. So if you're not following Russell Scabetti, ask Scabetti on Twitter and check out the Business of Sports. He's going to be launching that soon. And if you're looking to host an event in your city, please get in touch with Russell. He and Joshua are both planning many events around the world, and the more the merrier. So reach out to Russell, and if you want to run an event in your town, let him know, or you might find there is already one being run. That's it from me. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek. If you've got this far, if you wouldn't mind going to iTunes or Stitcher and leaving a review, you can simply type in sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes or /Stitcher. It'll take you to the show page and you can leave a review. Very much appreciative of everyone who has left a review. I'm really working on making sure I get reviews in all parts of the world, getting reviews from UK, Spain, Australia, and the US. So thank you very much for the people who have joined. And also something that I have done with the Beers, Blokes and Business community, I've opened up a Facebook group for people who listen to the Sports Geek podcast. Please let me know if you want to be added to that group. It's really just a place to discuss the episodes, discuss sports business trends, and connect on the platform that everyone is connected on. If you've seen, I'll put in the show notes the stats that Mark Zuckerberg shared this week around the connectivity of all things Facebook with all their apps, obviously WhatsApp and Instagram coming into the fold. But I did note that they did list the amount of groups that are on Facebook, and that's where a lot of the engagement on Facebook is happening. So I thought I'd give it a go with a Sports Geek podcast Facebook group. That's it from me. Until next week, cheers.
Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. Did you know Sports Geek Podcast has listeners in over 50 countries? Thank you for sharing. Like the Sports Geek Podcast? Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sportsgeek. Thank you for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.